Jackson Cole had always kept life simple. A small log cabin nestled on the edge of Pine Ridge, a quiet town no one famous ever mentioned. A rusted pickup truck, a modest job at the town supply store, and above all, his 7-year-old son, Noah. That boy was his whole world. Ever since his wife passed from breast cancer 4 years earlier, Jackson had learned how to be both mother and father. Nurse and storyteller, protector and pillow. He wasn't rich in money, but in loyalty, warmth, and peace, he had more than most. Then came the storm. That night, a furious downpour pounded the roof like it was trying to tear through. The wind howled, power lines flickered, and Noah clung to his father's arm under the quilt. Wide-eyed. Then came a knock at the door. Jackson opened it to find a woman, soaked in mud and rain. Her army uniform torn, a duffel slung over her shoulder, and a bleeding gash on her forehead. "Sorry to barge in," she said, almost breathless. "I saw your lights." "I've been walking for miles." Jackson stepped aside immediately. "Come in. Sit down before you collapse." She didn't offer a name. He didn't ask. Not yet. The woman collapsed on his couch, breath shallow. Jackson cleaned her wound carefully, using the first aid kit he kept from the days when Noah was still learning how to ride a bike. She didn't wince. She barely blinked. That kind of pain tolerance could only come from war or a lifetime of being silenced. "You a soldier?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Need food?" She shook her head. "Sleep first." Jackson led her to the guest room. Really a storage room with a bed in it? She didn't complain. By morning, the storm had passed. The woman was standing in the kitchen, her uniform jacket off, wearing a borrowed flannel shirt. Noah was laughing. She had turned 2 potatoes and a few eggs into breakfast like a magician. Jackson was startled. "I hope you don't mind," she said. He was hungry. "Not at all," Jackson muttered, watching his son light up like it was Christmas. Her name was Reese. She didn't offer more than that. Over coffee. Reese explained in fragments. She was on leave. The military base was over 2 hours away. Her ride had bailed. She was trying to hitchhike back when the storm hit. "Where are you going?" Jackson asked. She stared into her cup. "Nowhere that matters." He didn't press. He had seen that look before, in himself, once. Later that day, Jackson drove her into town. "Bus stops here," he said. Reese stepped out, then hesitated. "Thanks for everything." "Not many people open doors these days," Jackson shrugged. "Someone had to. You look like hell." She laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Been feeling like it too." As the bus pulled in, Reese turned suddenly. "Your son's lucky." "You're a good dad?" Jackson just nodded, watching the bus disappear down the road. He thought that was the end. But 2 weeks later, Reese returned. This time, she wasn't bleeding. She was broken. When Reese returned 2 weeks later, the ache in her eyes was deeper than the mountains she'd traversed. Jackson met her at the same door. She dragged her duffel bag behind her like a shadow. His heart clenched. "What happened?" he asked, voice gentle. She breathed, weary. "They denied my leave home. I was discharged. End of the line." He invited her inside as if she belonged. Noah looked up, confused yet calm. Reese knelt beside him. "You okay, kiddo?" she asked softly. He swallowed. "I'd like you around." Jackson caught her off guard. "She missed you." She stayed longer than she intended. She helped Jackson around the cabin, stacking wood, pulling weeds, fixing a loose fence post. But mostly, she played with Noah, teaching him basic drills, reading military stories, encouraging his bold curiosity. One dusk, they made a fire near the pine. Jackson passed her the last sandwich. "You don't ask for anything," she said. He shrugged. "Maybe because I don't expect much anymore." She looked at him, eyes brightening with something profound. "I didn't see you at first. I thought, I'm not worth this." He paused, stared into the flames. "Worth doesn't come from who you were or what you did. Worth comes from who loves you when you can't see yourself." That night, Reese told them her story, brief fragments about a childhood in gilded halls, repressed whispers in corridors, and a billionaire father who disowned her for choosing service over status. Her real name was Isabella. She'd been raised in luxury top schools, designer clothes, unspoken expectations, but none of that held meaning. Her father, a titan of finance, demanded obedience. When she enlisted, she was erased. She rarely cried. That night, she whispered into Jackson's ear, "It's hard to mourn the person you thought you would be." Days passed. Jackson's small routines anchored her broken rhythm. Noah asked countless questions about the base, her medals, how she felt when things were scary. Her answers were honest, human. She helped at the local VFW fundraiser, talking to veterans, listening, learning, shedding shame. The town embraced her quiet humility. She didn't make speeches, it was Jackson's steady support that gave her credibility. One rainy morning, a sleek car pulled up outside the cabin. A well-dressed driver stepped out and extended a hand across the muddy threshold. "Miss Isabella Carter, your father requests you at the estate." She stood, breathing slow. Jackson watched, heartbeat heavy. Inside the car, flashbacks racked her father's cold gaze, the mansion halls. The moment they cut her off, Jackson drove beside her for support, not as a chauffeur, but as her anchor. At the gates, she stepped out and looked at him, asking silently if he believed in her even now. He nodded. Inside the mansion, she was escorted into a gleaming office. Her father's voice came through the door before she saw him. "You're here?" he said flat. She approached. "I'm sorry for choosing something you didn't want." He gestured to a seat. She sat. The conversation was brisk, formal. "I own your loyalty," he said. "Your choices were expensive." She spoke slowly. "I chose people, I chose service, I chose truth." A tense pause. Then her father's voice cracked, not with anger, but regret. "I hear there's a man, Jackson ... who took you in when no one else would." She didn't answer. He called Jackson's number. The room went silent as Jackson picked up inside. "Jackson Cole?" her father asked. "Yes, sir." "Thank you," he whispered. "You stood by her." Jackson's voice caught. "All I did what's right." Her father let out a breath, something like relief. Next morning, Isabella stormed into the cabin. "Dad," he said, "I was strong because someone believed in me." She paused. "Because of you." Jackson hugged Noah. Reese soaked up the small home that had salvaged her. Weeks later, Isabella returned to the town's fundraiser, wearing a simple jacket, no designer labels. She spoke not as the heir, but as a veteran and human. She announced a scholarship program for veterans who wanted to transition to civilian life. She used her connections for purpose, not prestige. Jackson and Reese reunited, stronger, found solace in the present. Noah greeted both as family, calling her Aunt Belle. One snowy evening, Reese and Jackson sat by the fire as Noah slept. She looked at him. "Why did you open the door?" He looked at her steady. "Because I needed a home too." She smiled, tears glistening. "And I needed one too." A final epilogue. Jackson, Reese, Isabella, and Noah stand at the rebuilt fence with the log cabin behind. Isabella hands Jackson an envelope. Inside, acceptance. Letter from a military veterans outreach program with funds to get her started, backed by her father, who funded it but remained silent. Jackson opens it. Reads his portion. Recognition for unnamed acts of service and gratitude. He looks at Reese and she finally says, "I forgave him because I made one of my own." They hold hands. Noah runs between them, laughter echoing like a promise. Colonel Evelyn Hart had commanded troops through deserts, jungles, and snowfields, but nothing had ever broken her spirit until she became a single mother to 4 impossible children. Widowed 3 years ago, she had thrown herself into her military career, thinking her discipline could handle anything. But her 4 kids, Liam, 10, Maddie, 8, Leo, 6, and Bella, 4, were chaos wrapped in cuteness since her husband's death. The Hart household had become a revolving door of caretakers. 23 maids had come and gone. Some left in tears, others in ambulances. The kids were unruly, brilliant, and emotionally bruised. And no one could survive more than a day. "I don't need a babysitter, I need a miracle," Evelyn grumbled to her aide-de-camp, Sergeant Norris, after the latest nanny locked herself in the pantry and called her mother crying. The next day, Norris arrived with a folder. "Ma'am, I think I found someone. Not a maid, dad." "A what?" "A single dad, ex-engineer, fell on hard times, has a daughter." He's applying for the janitorial position, but he's willing to help out with the kids if needed. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. A janitor? For my kids? Norris held his ground. What you need isn't credentials. You need someone who can hold on. He's already survived a 5-year-old girl alone. I figured he deserves a shot. Evelyn sighed. Fine, he starts tomorrow. Enter Jack Evans, a quiet man in his early 40s, strong hands, tired eyes, soft voice. Jack was nothing like the rigid caretakers that had come before him. His daughter, Emma, was 7, shy and wise beyond her years. They lived in a beat-up RV parked near the base. The next morning, Jack entered the mansion-sized military home, carrying only a worn-out backpack and a lunchbox shaped like a dinosaur for his daughter. You the new cleaner? Liam asked, sizing him up. Nope, Jack replied, kneeling to Leo's level. I'm the guy who's gonna build you the best fort you've ever seen. The kids froze. This wasn't the usual drill sergeant type. Jack didn't bark orders. He listened. Maddie whispered to Bella, he's weird. Bella nodded, but he smells like pancakes. By noon, things had changed. Instead of mess and tantrums, the house was alive with laughter. Leo was in a cardboard tank Jack helped him build. Maddie was painting without spilling a single drop. Liam was actually reading, and Bella was asleep in Jack's arms while Emma sat nearby braiding Maddie's hair. Evelyn returned home early and braced herself for chaos. Instead, she was met with silence, and then the smell of grilled cheese. What the? Jack looked up from the stovetop. Hope it's okay. The kids were hungry. They always are, she said stiffly, scanning the room. No signs of food on the walls, no broken vases, no injured pets, just ... Calm. They seem to like you, she said skeptically. Kids usually do. Until they don't, he replied. She wasn't sure if it was modesty or a warning. Days turned to weeks. Jack wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. He didn't force the kids to behave. He gave them the space to be kids while quietly steering them toward kindness and responsibility. And his daughter Emma had become like a missing piece in the puzzle. She brought out the softness in Maddie, patience in Liam, silliness in Leo, and protectiveness in Bella. Colonel Hart, used to running battalions, found herself sitting on the porch watching her children become ... people, but something inside her bristled. It was working too well. Why would a man like you clean toilets for a living? She asked Jack one evening. Jack simply replied, because it's honest work, and it lets me be near my daughter. She didn't know what to say to that, but not everyone was pleased. A neighbor, Major Calloway, cornered Evelyn at a base gathering. You've got who watching your kids? A single father, she said evenly. Are you insane? It's improper, unvetted. What do you even know about this man? Evelyn felt her military pride bristle. I know he's the only person who's ever made them smile. That night, she watched Jack teach Emma and Bella how to make paper stars. Then she watched her youngest kiss Jack on the cheek and say, You're like a papa, but better. You never shout? Evelyn walked out before Jack saw the tears in her eyes, but peace didn't last. One rainy Thursday, while Jack was out buying groceries, Liam tripped climbing the bookshelves and hit his head. Maddie panicked and called the only number she trusted not. 911, but he dropped everything and rushed home, arriving before the ambulance. Evelyn returned to find him cradling Liam, pressing a cloth to his forehead, whispering gently, calming the chaos with nothing but presence. Where were you? Jack asked, not out of anger but heartbreak. I was in a briefing, she replied. He looked her in the eye. He needed you. To be continued in part 2, part TW. After the hospital visit, Evelyn was quiet. Jack was quieter. Liam recovered quickly, but something had shifted between the adults. Evelyn, for the first time, questioned if she'd put her career before motherhood and if Jack had quietly taken the role she was supposed to fill. One evening, Evelyn asked Jack to stay late. They love you, she admitted. Sometimes I think they love you more than me. They don't, Jack said gently. They need you more than me. They just don't know how to ask, Evelyn's voice broke. Neither do I. He said nothing, only placed a small paper star in her palm. Emma said every time someone makes A wish with this, they find a little courage. That night, Evelyn sat by her kids as they slept and cried for the first time since her husband's funeral. Then came the storm. Not a real storm, but a bureaucratic one. Military regulations. Base audit. And a visit from Child Protective Services. Thanks to an anonymous complaint likely from Major Calloway, a janitor living in a mobile home, caring for military children without proper licensing. That's a violation, the CPS agent said. Jack was removed immediately. Emma was taken too. The house, once warm, turned cold. Bella refused to speak. Maddie cried in her sleep. Liam stopped drawing. Leo wet the bed. Evelyn tried to restore order, bringing in professional caretakers, but the kids weren't acting out. They were mourning. 2 weeks later, Evelyn marched into the CPS office in full uniform. My children are not neglected. They are loved. And the only man who's ever made that possible is sitting in your hallway, wondering if his daughter will ever forgive him for leaving. The agent blinked. Colonel, I will personally take responsibility. You want paperwork? I'll give you paperwork? You want supervision? Fine. But don't you dare take a father from kids who need him just because it doesn't fit your boxes? Jack returned home with Emma, but this time, he didn't return as a janitor. Evelyn offered him a full-time position as Director of Child Wellness for base personnel, a made-up title. A real salary, he refused politely. I'm not looking for promotions. I'm just trying to build a life where Emma doesn't feel like we're surviving. Evelyn whispered, then let me help you. Months passed. Jack and Evelyn became ... not friends. Not lovers. Something in between. Two broken people slowly becoming whole around children who reminded them how to heal. One evening, while playing Monopoly, Bella tugged Jack's shirt and whispered, "Can you never leave again?" He smiled, looked at Evelyn and said, "Only if your mom says so." Evelyn blinked back tears. She said, "If you ever try to leave again, I'll beg you to stay." And that night, in a house that had once broken 23 maids, a family was finally born, not of blood, but of choice.